Peter King of the MMQB.com joining the program. How's it going, buddy?
What's up, Mike?
Glad you're with
city.
us. Yes, I'm in the city, and Matt's here, Stats here,
Hi,
James
Matt.
on the board. We're
What's
having
up,
a good
guys?
time.
Hello.
Hey.
Good to see you.
So,
I ignored
thank
your
you.
call earlier.
I was late getting here. I'm sorry.
That's fine. You're here. That's all that matters. Will Tony Romo be here or there for the Cowboys on Sunday?
I don't see how. 5% chance I wrote this morning in my column on the game. And, I think what is a sign really is that even though Jerry Jones on Monday night came out and said there's nothing structurally wrong, I don't know. Does that mean there's no broken bones? But I think there's certainly something wrong that's going to have to be addressed surgically after the season. But I think it's very interesting that they gave him an epidural to try, to at least make an effort. But Mike, I think it's a very long shot that you see Tony Romo.
I can't get past the fact, though, that he played after
I
injuring
agree.
the back.
Yeah, I talked to Jason Witten yesterday, and he had this great thing. He said, I learned so much. He said, really, I knew what a gutsy guy he was, but he said, you could see on that last drive the pain he was in the huddle, and then the pain he was in on the bus, on the plane going back. But, you just think that, well, he'll be okay. And not only wasn't he okay, but he's, probably going to need surgery. I think it's really interesting, Mike. I don't know how you feel about it, but it's so interesting to see. We've all been critical about late game performances by Romo, but I think we also all feel that they would have had a puncher's chance in this game if Tony Romo was playing, and they have a much lesser chance to win this game now.
But is that really accurate? Are we overlooking the possibility that the Eagles will come in and have a bad game like they had in Minnesota?
Oh, no question about it. But if you were to ask me right now, the Cowboys' defense really, except for spurts against Washington on Sunday, has been god awful for most of the last 2 months. And I think, and Jason Witten, of all the things he said to me yesterday, the one thing I thought that was most revealing is, in essence, we have to keep the ball in our hands. We got to keep the ball away from them because they're a tremendously efficient offense playing against a defense that we all can see has not been efficient. And I just look at Dallas right now and just say their best chance is giving the ball to Nick Foles 8 times and giving the ball to DeMarco Murray 33 times. That's really their best chance. And again, they may not be able to give the ball to him 33 times if it's always 2nd and 9, but that's what I think is their best chance Sunday.
We're visiting with Peter King of the MMQB.com. He's here in studio in Dan Patrick's New York City man cave. You talked about a god-awful defense in Dallas. There's another playoff play-in game involving a couple of god-awful defenses, the Bears and the Packers getting together at Soldier Field. How concerned should we be about rust on Aaron Rodgers, given that he hasn't played in a couple of months, and by all indications, he'll be back from that broken collarbone?
The best thing that happened to Aaron Rodgers is that he's facing a totally, absolutely feeble pass rush. I got a stat in my column today that says, in essence, if you look at Robert Quinn's 798 snaps this year, he has as much pass rush production as the top 5 guys on the Bears do, top 5 rush guys on the Bears in 2,700 snaps. And so who would you rather be playing than the Chicago Bears if you're trying to protect your quarterback? To me, Julius Peppers, for the money he makes, for the $1 million a week or whatever he makes, he's got to show up on Sunday and make it uncomfortable for Aaron Rodgers.
Should we be troubled by the fact that between the Cowboys, Eagles, Packers, and Bears, 2 of those teams are going to get to the playoffs? The Cardinals could finish 11-5 and be on the outside looking in, all because of this structure. And I know it looks good on paper, 4 teams per division, but shouldn't there be a way for the Cardinals to get in when Cowboys, Eagles, Bears, Packers are going to make up 2 of the 6 playoff spots in the NFC?
I don't mind the Eagles getting into the playoffs, and I think that's absolutely fine. What are the Eagles going to be, 10-6 if they get in, if they win this game? The Eagles should get in. And what really bothers me more, Mike, is the way the home teams are seeded in the playoffs and the way people are awarded home games for winning bad divisions. I think that's silly. I think it's ridiculous that, for instance, the San Francisco 49ers could win to go 12-4 on Sunday, and they're going to have to travel to an 8-win team and play a road game maybe in a blizzard. I mean, and all of America will say, isn't this cute? This is great. Is it fair? It's not fair. It's totally ridiculous that a wild card team significantly better with 4 more wins has to travel. What was the year that didn't Seattle win with 7-9, and they had to then New Orleans had to travel, and New Orleans lost the game, and it was New Orleans, right?
It was New Orleans at Seattle. New Orleans, the defending champs. And people said when the Seahawks won, Peter, that validates the approach because they won the game. No, the only reason they won the game is because they played at home.
Exactly right. And so I'm really bothered by that, and I'm also bothered by the fact that the NFL considers it is sacrosanct for a team to win a division that they then have to have a home playoff game. No. It's sacrosanct that a team wins a division and makes the playoffs, but you don't reward a bad division winner with a home playoff game over a team that the San Francisco 49ers right now might be the second best team in football. I don't know what they are. They might be 5th, but they're right up there. And, they're going to have to travel to a team that, who knows, over the last 2 months has been the 18th best team in football, the Packers. Or the Bears, who gave up 54 points last week and are limping into the postseason. I think it's utterly preposterous.
So the easy solution would then be you get in if you win your division, and we're going to pick the 6 best teams regardless of division. That's simple. That's easy to do, and I can't.
No, you're going to pick the home teams based on pure record. The home teams in the playoffs will be based on that. As far as the Arizona Cardinals go, that's tough. And I don't mean to be cold and cruel, but you knew the rules at the start of the year. The only way around that, in my opinion, unless you're going to take away a guaranteed playoff spot from a division winner, which I don't think you should do, the only way around it is to add to the playoffs. And for every Arizona that you would reward, you would also reward a crappy 9-7 team in another year. And I have no desire to reward another team in the playoffs.
But I get the impression they're going to expand the playoffs. Sven in California called before you got here talking about expanding the regular season. That ship has sailed. The way they're going to offset shrinking the preseason from a revenue standpoint is expanding the playoffs. The tea leaves are pointing in that direction. Don't you think that's going to happen soon?
Yes. I think they're going to expand the playoffs. Rich Eisen was on my podcast a couple of weeks ago, and he thinks, he didn't say fait accompli, but he thinks that is in the offing. I think he's right. I think it's going to be very hard in this in this current CBA until at least 2020 or 21 for any legitimate discussion to be had for an 18-game season. And I was talking to somebody from the league a couple of weeks ago who said, geez, get off the 18-game, you hate the 18-game schedule, get off it. It's a good idea and all that. And I said, hey, I'm all for the 18-game schedule, but if you tell every player on every team that you can play in a maximum of 16 games in a year, I'd be for the 18-game schedule. Give more guys jobs. And how exciting and fun would it be, other than to the ticket buyer, how exciting would it be for Bill Belichick to have to choose which 2 games Ryan Mallett plays? And I'll tell you who would really, really love the fact that there'd be an 18-game schedule. Backup quarterbacks in the NFL. All of a sudden, somebody would step out there and pay. Who's the best backup quarterback? Might even be Kyle Orton. I don't know. Might be Kirk Cousins. Somebody is going to say to Kirk Cousins on his second contract, maybe Washington says to him, we'll pay you $6 million a year to stay. But I don't think that anybody could say anything to me that would make an 18-game schedule palatable unless you said that every player could play a maximum of 16.
And that 18 with a maximum of 16 possibility has been floating around out there, and the NFL has never really shot it down. Well, there are guys who are not going to be coaching for 18, 16, or any games next year. We're going to run through the list of coaches on the hot seat with Peter King of the MMQB.com. After the break, stick around. Mike Florio in for Dan. This is the Dan Patrick Show. Mike Florio in for Dan. It's the Dan Patrick Show. Peter King of the MMQB.com in studio. Joining us for another segment, Matt Casey of NBC Sports produces Pro Football Talk on NBCSN, which the three of us will be doing later today, 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time, along with Tom Curran of CSN New England. Rob Stats Guerrera in the house as well, helping keep this thing on track. James Flippin taking care of all the sound. Greg Bergman in California. And we've spent 2.5 hours talking about whether or not Tony Romo is going to play. We can now move that 95% to 100%. Coach Jason Garrett tells the media, not that Tony Romo will have back surgery. Past tense, Tony Romo has already had back surgery. I assume he'll be something less than questionable for Sunday's game. What do you think about this?
What's so interesting about this, I always think, because of the profession that we're in, I always say to myself, when somebody goes against the grain, and Adam Schefter got shot at a bunch this week, I always think, good for Adam. I think Adam is great at his job. And I love the fact that he stuck his neck out there and then had to reconfirm it yesterday on ESPN, and good for him. He was right all along. And so now Kyle Orton, who is 37-37 in his starting quarterback career. And Mike,
perfect quarterback for the Cowboys.
That's right, isn't it? That's perfect. Mike, I bet you don't know Kyle Orton's last start in the NFL. Would you like me to tell you about it?
I think I know what it was.
You do? Who? What?
It was the Chiefs in 2011.
That's right. And how about this? It's Kansas City with Kyle Orton quarterbacking, playing Denver with Tim Tebow quarterbacking. Tim Tebow's last regular season start for the Denver Broncos. And it's Kyle Orton 7, Tim Tebow 3. And I'll never forget, after that game, I even remembered his passing line. 6 for 22 for Tim Tebow. And I just said, oh, my God, the Broncos, sort of limp into the playoffs. But now watch what's going to happen. They're going to get killed by somebody. So, of course, Tim Tebow throws an 80-yard pass to Demaryius Thomas in overtime. They beat the Pittsburgh Steelers. Tim Tebow can't beat a playing out the string Kyle Orton and the Kansas City Chiefs, but he can beat Dick LeBeau and Ben Roethlisberger in the playoffs.
And now he can't get a job anywhere. They're hiring 41-year-old high school teachers in Dallas instead of number 15. Okay, let's go forward here, and let's assume that the Cowboys don't win this game, although I think there's a chance they will. If they have the right game plan, I think they can. If they lose, do you think Jason Garrett's back next year? Does he get a mulligan because of the Romo injury?
Mike, I've been told the last month or so, okay, pump the brakes on firing Jason Garrett. Jerry is going to make a judgment at the end of the year based on a lot of factors, not just the playoffs. But I'm just like you. I've thought all along, if they don't make the playoffs, he's going to be gone. The question is now, with an incredible victory in Washington, down 9 with 7 minutes to go on the road, your quarterback, in intense pain, that now was, a disc injury in his back, and they come back and win that game. I've maintained this all along about Jason Garrett because I know some players on this team. The players on this team really respect Jason Garrett. They play for him. They like him and all that. And now I think Jerry Jones, and plus the other thing is he's the perfect coach for Jerry Jones, gives the perfect image to the organization. Says all the right things, does all the right things. A Princeton guy. He's very smart, and
can put up with Jerry Jones, which
and
I think
can
is
put
a
up
key.
with Jerry Jones, and all that. And I think the only thing that's got to be going through the back of Jerry Jones's mind is, if I could get Gruden, I might do this.
But could Gruden put up with Jerry Jones?
Could Bill Parcells put up with Jerry Jones?
Jerry Jones got to the point where he was desperate enough to put up with Bill Parcells and to give up some of the power.
But Bill Parcells, and I'll tell you why it worked with Parcells, even though they didn't win. The reason it worked with Parcells is that the first time that Jerry ever met with Parcells, it was on the plane in a little airport at Teterboro, 15 miles from here. is on that little plane, and Parcells and Jerry had this sort of come to Jesus discussion in which Jerry said, in essence, look, I really want you, but the biggest condition is I'm the general manager and I'm going to make the decisions on draft day. And if you want to talk about this, if you want to do it, I really want you. And so Jerry, as you know, can sell anything to anybody because he has his whole life, and he does a fantastic job. And I think that John Gruden would know absolutely what the score is when he walked in the door. He would know that I'm going scouting on Jerry's plane, and I'm going to go to 30 colleges around the country, and I'm going to come into the draft room and say, I want Teddy Bridgewater or whoever. I don't know. I want this guy. And Jerry probably is going to give him the guy he wants, probably. But Jerry will have the final say.
Let's roll through some of these others quickly. Mike Shanahan in Washington.
Gone.
Jim Schwartz in Detroit.
Probably gone.
What about Martin Mayhew, GM?
I think there's a good chance it's a total house cleaning.
Rex Ryan of the Jets.
I think if he wins Sunday in Miami, that Woody Johnson does not have the audacity to fire Rex Ryan with the worst skill position players along with Jacksonville in the NFL.
Leslie Frazier in Minnesota.
I think he'll get fired.
Dennis Allen in Oakland.
I think he'll get fired.
Any chance Gruden would go to Oakland?
No.
Mike Munchak in Tennessee.
I think he'll get fired.
Greg Schiano in Tampa.
He will not get fired.
There's always a surprise. Do you see a surprise, which of course would make it not a surprise? Is there one lurking out there that could come out of the blue?
The only surprise I can figure is Tom Coughlin, which would be a real surprise because I just don't think the Mara family operates that way. I think the Mara family operates in a meeting on February 12th at the Meadowlands where John Mara and Steve Tisch, and this is a total guess. I'm just saying that the way they operate is to do everything in secret, or on January 12th, not February 12th. But to basically say to everybody in the organization, okay, look, this year stunk. We trust you. We love you. You guys brought us 2 Super Bowls, but next year we have to see some production or else we're going to make some changes.
And that could be the best outcome for everybody. Every time Tom Coughlin's on the hot seat, he wins the Super Bowl. 2007, 2011, and
he loves the hot seat.
He loves being under pressure.
Yep.
Okay, here's one more question for you. We'll put you on the hot seat. The poll question is, at danpatrick.com, who's the coach of the year? Who would you vote for right now? I know week 17 is going to be a factor, but right now, who's your coach of the year?
I would split my vote 2 ways as of today, okay, which I've done on several occasions. I'd split my vote between Andy Reid and Bruce Arians.
What if the Dolphins make the playoffs and the Cardinals don't?
I want to see how the Cardinals play on Sunday. I'm not sure that Joe Philbin would get my vote, even though this has nothing to do with a lack of respect for Joe Philbin. But he's been there. Andy Reid and Bruce Arians just got there, and they turned around programs, especially Reid. That was last year was an absolute disaster. The other guy, if I'm going to have a sentimental pull toward, because I think he's done a great job, is Belichick. Belichick he's been phenomenal this year. It's why, and Mike, we've talked about this before, I don't like the way the AP does the vote, because I think that you know going all in on one guy, like 1 year Peyton Manning won the MVP, I think 49-1. And it was not a year where he was so far above everybody else that it should have been 49-1. And I think that the way baseball does it is a lot better, where you get a lot of guys involved in it. And isn't it a nice thing if somebody could say, yeah, our guy, Cam Newton, he finished 4th in the MVP voting this year. Well, I mean, who knows? Maybe Cam Newton will get a vote or two. But I think Peyton Manning is probably going to win it in a landslide or close to a landslide. But should he? I really think that they need to expand the vote.
Great stuff as always. Let's do this again in about 6 hours up the road. Stanford, Connecticut, Pro Football Talk.
Can I dress
on
like
NBCSN.
this, please?
I have no problem with it. Others may, but I have no problem with it. Matt, you're the boss.
Of my pay grade.
We'll explore that. Peter, thanks as always.
The Dan Patrick Show, weekday mornings on Audience.